I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, have soaring inflation rates affected your spending?
I do have to tighten the budget a little more than I would normally do.
I have to watch every dollar closely now more than ever.
Not that much because I don't spend much to begin with.
I think everything balances off in the end.
Whether it's at the gas pumps, your local retail or grocery checkout, or even when shopping online, the far-reaching effects of inflation have been impacting us all, forcing Canadians to dig deeper in their pockets for everyday necessities with no immediate end in sight. We sent our cameras out to ask Canadians how ever-increasing prices influences how, when, or even what we buy. Our question: have soaring inflation rates affected your spending?
Of course, yeah. Everything's more expensive. You go and try and buy a pound of bacon. I don't know if you've looked at that price. That's huge. Gas prices, what used to be $90 to fill up your gas tanks now, close to $200. So yeah, it curbs everything that you do, and it affects everything that you do, whether you're a manufacturer or a consumer. It's everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Gas prices are incredibly unaffordable. I have a son with a truck that he needs for his career, and it's unaffordable for him to fill his truck and get to work. So yes, and grocery prices, unaffordable. I can't imagine how young families are doing it at this point.
Not that much because I don't spend much to begin with. I keep my spending to the necessities. I don't splurge, I don't travel, I don't have big booze budgets, or I don't eat out an awful lot. So my spending is pretty well self-contained.
Most definitely, yes. Reducing my spending down to necessities and trying to make all of my purchases local so that they benefit my communities.
I think so. I was just in school, so I'm a broke student still, so things are a little too expensive for me right now.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been, living with two roommates for the past 3 years or so, looking to get a place of my own, but prices are way too high for that, and even looking into getting a used car prices are the most they've ever been right now.
We're really kind of paying attention to what we spend, and we're trying to find sales where we can, but they're getting harder and harder to find.
Yeah, I've noticed that my spending, I'm more and more cautious. Yeah.
I would definitely agree with what she's saying. I feel like just being mindful of how much your budget is, I feel like that would kind of help you minimize how much you're getting and what you're spending on. So
yeah, rent is going up, grocery, everything's expensive. So by the end of the month, it's you're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes, definitely. Oh. Cut back on vehicle usage and driving, grocery costs, try to be a bit more frugal on that end of it. So kind of all areas.
I don't go anywhere. I just have to expend that few money for very important things like food example. I have a car, I have to plate it, I have to put gas. So yeah, I am completely affected when it comes to expending good time, like going out and stuff like that.
Everything is going high, so like we have to work on a budgets every day, kind of. Everyday routine like grocery items, including just like if we talk about just the oil, vegetable oil, whatever we are using, it goes from $16 to $45. So that's affecting us every day. We are trying to saving just for our day-to-day, spending.
I think everything balances off in the end. I think, we've got people that know a lot more than me running the country, whether you agree with who they are or not. They still know a lot more, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and just have to let them do what they do. And if you don't like it, elect somebody else.
I can't afford to spend anything. I've never been so poor in my life. I just can't afford anything. Well, mind you, I'm on disability, right? An old age pension, so that doesn't cover a lot of money. So it's tough, really tough.
Previously, I used to spend around $600 per month, including rent and groceries. Right now, I am spending around $800. So, and the other problem, on the other hand, the problem is the pay level didn't increase. It's still it's still in the same level.
Well, for the first time ever, I'm going to grow a garden just to try and not spend so much on food, and trying to buy from local butchers and stuff like that, because everything's just so much more expensive. about you? Hasn't affected you? I'm sure it has. I can't necessarily think. I think I'm just more mindful. Like I'm more budget conscious, checking prices a little more. I'm not just throwing things in my cart like I used to, but other than that, I'm more conscious of what I'm driving as well because fuel is so expensive.
I was always pretty aware of what I spend, but I have to watch every dollar closely now more than ever just because everything has gone up and I'm self-employed, so I've had to increase the prices that I charge my clients as well to kind of keep up with inflation.
It's affected my spending because everything has gone up, and since everything has gone up in price, gas and all food and everything, the inflation affects my income for my family because I make a certain amount of money and I live on a fixed income, and because I live on a fixed income, we end up spending over $100 a month, over $100 a week more just to buy our groceries, and the pay has not gone up. My pay has stayed the same.
Well, it makes it more difficult because now you really have to bargain shop with gas prices and now return to work, and it's challenging. Utilities have gone through the roof. They don't increase our pay, maybe a percentage point, and then you receive your utility bills and it's like 5% increase, 8% increase, and you're like, so you're taking that much out of my pay, so what does that leave me with to live?
Current inflation rates, the rate that they're going up, yeah, it's affected myself and it's probably affected a lot of others as well. I mean, I don't have, I'm not in the upper income tax bracket, so I have to be careful on how I spend. And I mean, even with recent changes with gas prices as well, it makes it difficult. And yeah, I do have to tighten the budget a little more than I would normally do.
It has. I find that I get less for my money. And it does affect, and you have to budget really carefully and you have to shop around more, so it causes a lot more stress.
Tensions between the federal government and Western Canada has been apparent for decades. Many Westerners have said they feel isolated and ignored by Ottawa, and as a result, sentiment has grown to make a clean break from Canada. Those who have been around long enough may tell you it feels like 1980. When Pierre Trudeau's national energy program wanted larger control over Canada's oil and gas industry, creating a wedge between the East and West. So, how can we repair the damage done and prevent history from repeating itself? Our question.
How could the federal government improve its relationship with Western Canada?
That's a good question. Probably let's get on the oil thing because that's what keeps us going, right? And yeah, they haven't listened to us from here. I'm actually from Ontario. I'm from Ottawa, and I see a big difference between here and living in Ottawa for politics. I don't think they care about the West that much. I've been here 15 years, so I'm sort of staying here. Yeah, they've got to pay attention. They've got to talk to our premiers and everything more. Get some things done.
Eliminate the carbon tax, reinvigorate the gas and energy sector, and I think those two things would help.
How could it improve? I'd say just spend more time out here, understanding the needs and the wants of the people.
I think one way to improve the relationship with Western Canada is to respect the non-renewable resource sector, but not kowtow to it as well, and to honor promises made to First Nations people in the western part of the country.
Invest in Western Canada. Invest in its people. You've got millions of dollars going into Ontario, got millions of dollars going into Quebec, and it stops at the Manitoba border. So there's no buy-in from Eastern Canada at all for us.
We need a voice. That's all I'm saying is the voice is, we're not less important than PEI, we're not less important than Nunavut. And they've got less population, so I think we probably should deserve at least a little, in the resources that we have.
I guess we need more unity to unite all the sides of Canada, because I recently moved from Ontario, and coming here 2 months ago, it does feel a little bit different. Feels like there is no unity between two sides of Canada. So I think we need to sit on a round table. We need to discuss to see what's unite us instead of what makes us different. And I guess political differences also make a big big trouble for that too, because here, like, the views and political ideas is completely different than the views on another side. So I think we need to find some middle ground in figuring out how to do it. Yeah.
I think equity. You have to be equitable to the different provinces and see their needs and what is important there, and look at all the different issues that affect each province individually.
I don't know nothing about it. I can't comment.
Like I'm concerned because, you know, Western Canada's got the oil, and in light of what's happening in the Ukraine. I mean, we have always maintained that Canada can be self-sufficient. We shouldn't be relying on any other countries for anything. But having said that, it affects so much. You know, the pipeline, the Indigenous people, like, it's not an easy thing.
Open communication obviously would be very important. I don't know a lot about Western policies or what's going on out west. Sorry, I couldn't really say. I mean, as a nation, I mean, I would hopefully it would, you know, it's always growing and always improving. So, and not just on a federal level, but on provincial levels and municipal levels as well. Right? I mean, politics, it's tough. I mean, you have, I guess, is it more predominant PC out west and Liberal out east? So, and then you also have Quebec as well, right? So there's always that as well, and so I really couldn't say. I don't know. I mean, to improve, I mean, open communication would be very important, but it's always hard because there's always fighting back and forth, right?
Yeah, just kind of make it a little more equal, you know, like every kind of province should kind of, you know, hold its own a little bit more, I think.
That is a very complex question. I'm personally an advocate for greener fuels, and while I support industries that provide all of our communities with the basics, the trucking industry and such, I do believe that moving forward to better fuel practices, and that would make a huge economic difference for both sides of Canada as far as I'm concerned.
Get some more Western politicians into Ottawa. I'm not saying bring back Stephen Harper, but some more representation, maybe a few more cabinet ministers, and a couple more senators.
Very simple, get our resources to market. And if the federal government claims that they care about climate and the environment, well, climate and environment doesn't stop at our borders. And if we got our liquefied natural gas to India and China and help them come off coal, we would have a cleaner planet and we'd have prosperity in Canada, jobs for our kids, and a cleaner planet. So it's a win-win, but instead we have a lose-lose where we don't get our resources to market, and people buy their fuel from Russia, and we all see what happened between the Ukraine and Russia. And really, the resource sector is really a gateway to democracy, and we're giving ours away right now and being dependent on countries that have terrible human rights records. So it doesn't make sense to me. I'm gobsmacked by the whole thing.
How many governors general have there been since 1867? 20, 30, or 40?
20, 30, 40 since 1867. I'd go for 40 on that.
20. Oh, I'll say 30.
I'll concur. 20.
I'm going to go with 30.
I'm going to say 40.
I'm going to say 30.
It's 30. Good for you, man. Elbow bump. Thank you.
Lucky guess.
Since Confederation, there have been 30 Governors General in Canada. The Governor General is the federal vice-regal representative of the British monarch. Their role is to carry out the parliamentary duties of the sovereign in their absence, such as summoning Parliament, reading the speech from the throne, and proroguing and dissolving Parliament. Up to 1931, the Governor-General was chosen by the sovereign until the Canadian government began to make those recommendations. In 1952, Vincent Massey became the first Canadian-born Governor-General. Jean Sauvé became the first woman to serve in the role in 1984. Adrienne Clarkson became the first Governor-General of Chinese heritage in 1999. And Mary Simon became the first Indigenous Canadian Governor-General when she was appointed in 2021.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic entered our lives, the way we live and even the way we interact changed drastically. Things may have also changed for all levels of government across this country as priorities suddenly shifted to find a solution to navigate our way through this. We took to the streets to ask Canadians what influence COVID has had not only on government, but on all people elected to public office. Our question:
has the pandemic changed Canadian politics?
Yes, people are not getting out to vote as much. Look at the last election, small turnout. Attitude toward politicians. The pandemic is a once-in-a-lifetime thing that's hard to beat. There was no one way to fix it, get it right. So no matter what decision or path you make, you're going to get criticized by the opposition. We could have done better. It's, I don't know, we do need some more tools in the tool chest. But with the pandemic subsiding and becoming a part of our normal routine, I think politics will go back to normal, to what it was.
Absolutely. I think, well, politics, from a public perspective, I think that people are so much more divided than they really were before.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for anything to happen in the world now without it becoming a political issue and for someone to try to leverage it based on political gain. And I think a lot of the decisions that Trudeau has made has been, to reinforce his own power and control over things, and especially you can see that with an example of using the Emergencies Act, like absolutely overkill use of power.
Yes, I think so. I think there were some very difficult decisions that had to be made in very short time, and unfortunately some of these decisions are inevitably not popular with some. I think that the current government is going to have to take a couple of shots, even because a lot of people can't recognize that some tough decisions had to be made.
Yes, I think it's viewed on a wider scope. Definitely we have to look at global impacts of things, and I think more people are forced to be aware of Canadian politics. They're at home, closer to their screens and social media and such. So there's a greater awareness. Now, I'm hoping that translates to a greater involvement, but that's yet to be seen, I guess.
I think there's more of a divide than there was before between the Conservatives, the Liberals, the anti-vaxxers, the pro-vaxxers. It's definitely, I think, divided the country a little bit, not for the best. You see the rallies, the protests, and this and that. And yeah, I think it's divided the country a little bit, yeah.
My opinion, and I know I share this with a lot of people, is that all politicians have hidden agendas. They all make false promises to get voted in, and then they drop the ball. So is there really a right person to vote for? In my opinion, no.
I believe it has. A lot of people have a lot more opinions on Canadian politics. A lot of people have now been, educating themselves more about, who to vote for or who's doing the right thing for the Canadian economy and for the Canadian people. So yeah, it's been a huge debate probably for everyone.
I think it has changed politics. As there's people that are to the far right, people to the far left, and you have to find a balance in between. You can't think that COVID doesn't exist. I've seen it personally, my whole family got it. And you can't say it's going to affect my life. You still have to go on living. So you have to find a balance.
It did change in other ways, especially I think when we were confined to places and we had so many restrictions on our, movement, liberties, and so on. I think that we did reconsider how we think about the politics now and who should we vote and elect, So I think it did affect the way we think about that.
Can't really say. I know it's changed life, like the way we do things. I don't know through politics, though, if it's changed it that much.
I mean, everybody talks about divisiveness and, people now are, online saying things you wouldn't say you and I in person. It makes me feel that people are more divisive and more, scared of each other. Just scared.
I just don't think that Justin Trudeau's involved at all with the people. He hasn't got a clue what the people want. He doesn't know what it costs to live. It's just ridiculous.
Absolutely it has. I think that coupled with recent things and elections that were won in the States over the last 8 years have definitely changed Canadian politics. People have been spending a lot of time at home absorbing different sorts of media and have been emboldened to voice their opinions on certain matters. And I mean, I'd like to say it's all good, but some of it's worrying as well.
I think so. Maybe the politicians are a little bit more distant or not as much actual exchange with maybe their constituents, their voters and things like that. So I think so. I think so in a big way. I know my life's changed, so I would think that maybe the politicians, I'm not happy with what's going on in Ottawa, so I'll leave it at that.
Statistics Canada has suggested that Canada's poverty rate has actually seen a slight decline in recent years. But despite that, millions of Canadians still live below the poverty line, including in some remote Indigenous communities. A situation like the pandemic can also exacerbate the effects of poverty, especially for those who have nowhere else to turn. So we took to the streets to ask Canadians what ideas they have to make things better. Our question:
what are your ideas to tackle poverty in Canada?
I think homelessness is the one that hits my heart the hardest. And I'm in an area where it's low economically, and you could see the differences. You can see how kids struggle, and I think that poverty is affecting the kids a lot. And I have kids saying, oh, we have to go to this food bank, and it just breaks your heart. And I think they need to tackle, especially with the low-income areas, what are the needs there, look at the families, their struggles, their issues, and try to attack that.
Lower the prices, make housing very, very affordable for the people that cannot afford it. They should make some houses and build houses that people can afford in life. Or else nobody will be able to buy a house, because houses nowadays you cannot buy more than 1.2 million.
As rich as we are, there's no need for that. We really shouldn't be seeing people on the street when we can do something about it, and the government should step up and do something about it, whether it's building apartment complexes for them so they have a place to stay and a place to eat and look after themselves. No need to be seeing them on the street.
See, I'd say that's unfortunate that I think a lot of us are one paycheck away, really, from being in that situation. So you have to have empathy. You have to resolve this and I think corporates and corporations and people with big money, let them pay their 50%.
Yeah, stop giving money to other countries. They're taking care of all these foreign countries and refugees, but not the people at home. So start at home. It's like someone that's trying to find their other half. If you don't love yourself, you can't offer somebody else love. If you can't help your own people, why are you helping other people?
Get people back to work. We have our resource sector and our manufacturing sector that are second and third largest contributors to our GDP. How about having a strategy for the resource sector and manufacturing sector so we can get our resources to market and get people back to work, especially those jobs are in the middle class and they're high paying middle class jobs, and we need to get our kids working. So, I mean, I don't want my kids living in my basement when they're 30. I'm sure you don't. So we need to get them back to work, and we're blessed in this country that we have a great resource sector. And if you had affordable energy, that really powers the engine of the manufacturing sector. So let's get our resources to market and let's get Canada back to work.
Producing more materials in the country and buying local and try to promote that. We have to get a grip on energy costs and make it so people have a little bit of money to spend so that we can have more people being hired and more jobs being created.
I mean, people have been playing around with the idea of universal basic income for a long time. I think, with the different financial plans that we've tried in the past, I do have a fairly conservative outlook on things, but I don't see why it's necessarily an idea that's not worth trying. But I also think, putting higher tariffs on imports is a good idea. Making sure that goods and services are produced in Canada and creating more jobs for Canadians is definitely the priority.
To tackle poverty, we got to get rid of the drugs. 90%, I think 90% of the people on the street that have got the homeless situations are addicted. Feel sorry for them. It's almost like a self-inflicted wound, though. They brought the drugs on themselves. They have their reasons, they have their illnesses, their pains, they're using drugs to beat it, but the drugs is turning people to crime, and the homeless people, we do need more government housing, more policing on those housing units. That's going to cost money, and there's only one taxpayer.
I grew up poor. There's no way, like, the kids are the ones that suffer, so the fact that there are children that are we just can't put a Band-Aid over it. We keep putting Band-Aids over it and trying to fund social services, and it's not working. So I think it's just coming down to the fact that people need to be able to earn a basic amount, and they're not. Minimum wage isn't doing it anymore. I mean, Saskatchewan especially, with the lowest minimum wage in the country.
You have to first identify them, what are their needs. Some of them may have financial issues, some of them may have some social issues. Social issues mean like they're cut off from their families, so we need to make plan for them. And on the financial sides, we need to give them some incentives or bring them to the society. Yeah.
Lots of, I guess, things here just in this city. North Central Family Center, which I personally am involved with, and that's one way that they reach out to people that are in need. They're always an open door, always willing to help, so those folks can have a place to go, and you know, during hard times and times that aren't easy, there's those places like that they should most definitely, I guess, not take advantage of, but use.
The government is the only one who can help, because as you are doing now, asking people about what is going on and how is it affecting people, and we are telling you, so we hope that the government is seeing us talking to you and do something.
The payments that we receive after working all your life doesn't seem to be not quite enough to live on. And plus, cut these taxes. They're killing us. All these carbon taxes, that's not going to change our climate. We're the cleanest country in the world. And we're paying the most tax for it.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.